Hello and welcome to the Keiwear Show, where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm your host, Keisha Mayo, and we have a great show for you on today. Today we have the president of the Harris Brand Management, Sheila Harris. Welcome to the show, Sheila, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation. Please introduce yourself to my viewers.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be able to join you today. And thank you so much for having me, and to your viewers. I'm so glad to be able to be with you today. As Keisha mentioned, I am the president of Harris Brand Management, which is a PR agency. I'm sure Keisha will ask some questions. I can share more about that. I'm also the host of the podcast Starts and Stops with Sheila Harris, and I'm a publicist. So I'll tell you a little bit more as Keisha goes along. Thank you.
Yes. Well, Sheila, I'm so excited to have you on today. You know, we've known each other for so many years, and I tell you, you've never changed. I mean, always sweet spirit, humble, always helpful, always encouraging. So I'm blessed to have you on the show and just blessed to have you in my life. So we're going to let the viewers know a little bit more about you. So we'll start with, where you're from, where were you born and raised?
Okay. So I am from New York, and specifically born and raised in Harlem. But I always say that I have Southern sensibilities because both my parents are from the South. My mom is from South Carolina. My dad is deceased, but he was from Alabama. So definitely born and raised Harlem all the way through. Recently, I moved to Westchester County, but definitely my roots are in Harlem. I go to church in Harlem and everything else. So yeah, that's a big part of me.
Ryan, we're going to get into that too, because you've been doing some amazing stuff at the church as well. But who was your inspiration growing up?
Oh my goodness. I think a lot of times we look to, what's on TV and entertainment to see who's your inspiration. A lot of those people are, but I think my greatest inspiration would be my family, my parents, were just really influential. They were really, they were loving to my brother and I. They provided for us, just really good examples of people. I have so many aunts and uncles in my family, cousins. Those are people who I really looked up to. And I have to say my teachers in school, a lot of times they treated us like we were their kids and just really loved on us, corrected us when they needed to. But yes, I don't want to go outside the realm of the people who were in my immediate life, and of course people in my church as well. So I would start there.
That's awesome, Sheila. And I know when we first met, you were working at Essence Magazine.
That's right.
How was that experience? Because you was there for how many years?
I was there for 25 years. Yes. That wasn't my plan initially, to be honest. I knew that I was going to do PR, and I was actually working at 2 other PR firms before the opportunity at Essence presented itself. So I remained in the PR department. And I have to say, if you think of the scripture, exceeding abundantly above all you could ask or think, that definitely was what the Lord did when he allowed me to have that experience. I did so many things there. Again, working in the publicity department, one may think it's just the magazine and publishing, but definitely it was events like the huge Essence Festival. It was our Oscar Week luncheon, just so many different things. The Day-to-Day magazine, of course. Most of all, it became a big family for me. There were a lot of great people there, and just a great sisterhood at that time. So that's a big a portion of my career that I'll always cherish.
Right. And Sheila, that was just your stepping ground. That was just the start of what you're doing now. God had you there to gain knowledge on certain things. So when you started your own, you knew what to do, so that was a blessing in itself. And did you go to school for public relations, or, what is your degrees in?
So it's funny. When I was in college, I attended Fordham University, college at Lincoln Center. I always want to make that distinction. There's a Rose Hill campus, but then it's the Manhattan campus. And I originally intended to become a lawyer at first. So I was going to major in political science, but I also always had a love for writing. And then Fordham one day had some sort of a career fair. And during that day, there were a variety of executives from the public relations field. And I became really fascinated. I said, okay, this is a great mix of 2 things I love to do, writing and talking. So I said, I think I should try this. And then what I wound up doing was I double majored in both media studies and political science, so that once I made my decision, I could kind of figure it out. And eventually, I stayed with PR in terms of my career, but the double major definitely helped me. So that's how I got into it.
That's awesome. And it's funny because when you say you like to talk, since we've been friends, I've
Yeah.
always, looked at you like myself, always shy and didn't want to talk.
Right. No. Yeah.
You know,
It's funny. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I by nature I'm shy and quiet, but I think if you talk to the people who are around me now, they would say no, that's really not true. So the Lord really had to develop me and push me. So there's definitely a side where I'm kind of quiet, but then there's a side that just clicks. So if I'm doing a red carpet event or trying to do photo ops, trust me, a whole nother side comes out of me, as I'm sure people can attest to.
right.
So yeah, I have to kind of wing both, and sometimes people are surprised by that, but I have both inside of me.
Because you're in your zone now, So
Absolutely,
it's like,
absolutely,
hey, you no longer
absolutely.
Sheila at that point. You
No,
Miss Harris.
no, step aside. Yes, be ready.
So what made you want to start the Harris brand management? What gave you that push, that drive to say, you know what, I'm going to start my own, company?
I think the gift that I was given working with so many dynamic Black women and seeing so many dynamic Black women in the industry that were reported on in a magazine or that I would see over the years is, you would see so many Black women who wanted to start their own business, who wanted to become entrepreneurs. And I do have that in my blood. My dad, back in the day, he and his friends owned a grocery store in Harlem. And I think it's just something instilled in me that I wanted to have my own business. So I knew that I would not always be at Essence. So I said I wanted to at least start the process. So years ago, I started, at least like looking at how to start my incorporate myself. What would I need to do to start getting clients, and I would just start building along the way. And until it was pretty evident that I needed to just go ahead and step out on faith, and just kind of go from there. At the same time, my church, Greater Refuge Temple, offered me an opportunity, and I was really, at the point where I was ready to kind of make that shift. So I said, you know what, this is the time. So that's when I said, let me go full throttle and really focus on that while working at the church. And I've been blessed to be able to start that.
Wow. And Sheila, now for someone who may not know, what is the job of a PR?
Okay, yes. I always like to say, especially to younger people who are going into the public relations field, a lot of times you see red carpet events and you see publicists who are at parties or who are doing photo ops and everything else. And I say, that is going to last for a couple of minutes, that there is that aspect to it, but there's so much more. There's writing, because you're constantly writing press releases, bios, media materials. You're constantly talking. So a lot of a publicist day is reaching out to press, pitching a client, pitching a project. There are also reports, because with PR, it's not like advertising where you can take an ad, pay a certain amount, and your ad is going to run during the Super Bowl or what have you. With public relations, you are engaging and talking to a reporter, to a journalist, to a producer, and trying to get them to see the importance of this particular project or initiative. And that takes time and effort. So there's a lot of following up, there's a lot of writing, and you also have to have reports that show, okay, I reached out to these amount of people. This is the coverage that was garnered. This is the amount of impressions. So there's a lot of different aspects. There's a lot of fun to it as well, but you have to be ready to handle it all. So it's definitely a great field to consider, but you just have to be ready for all of the aspects of it.
Got you. And now, was it hard building a team? Because I know for something like that, you need a team to work with you. You can't do it on your own.
To be honest, to be honest, in this season, one of the things you have to realize with entrepreneurship is, it takes funding, it takes capital, and in order to build a larger team, you have to make sure that you have those resources. So since I'm still really starting out, a lot of times I may have an intern to help me here and there, but a lot of times, because of my contacts and relationships, I may decide to kind of work on a certain aspect of the campaign where it wouldn't require me to have a number of account executives and everything else. Hopefully, I do want to grow. I'm thankful for my assistant. Shout out to Sonia Witherspoon and someone on the creative side as well, Kim Latham. But in terms of building out that team, that does take time and resources. So I want to get to that point. But for right now, I'm able to work at this pace, and it's been working.
That's good. And I know you're also an advisor. You advise people in handling public relations crisis. What kind of advice do you give people who may, seek your help?
Yes. So even before I went out on my own, as a publicist, there are times where you have to interact and talk to your colleagues and weigh in on certain things that are about to go down. A lot of times, I remember when I did my master's program, one of the things I love that really solidified a publicist role is I think a lot of times people go to a publicist after something has happened. And then they'll say, okay, now fix it. Maybe they've been watching Scandal too much. But it's like what you have to do with your publicist is you need to talk to them ahead of time before you make the decision, before you go after whatever it is you're doing, and say, this is what I'm thinking about. Do you think this is a good idea? And then that publicist or PR advisor can provide counsel and say, well, you know what, maybe before you do this, just provide guidelines, because it's like a lot of times you can almost see ahead how something can really bubble up in a way that you wouldn't want to. So it's good to talk to your publicist about certain things before you make decisions. So I've definitely found myself in those situations with clients, with former colleagues, even some people today, like, people are industry friends. They may run things by me and say, what do you think, how should I handle this situation? And based on experience, I'll share and say, you may not want to go this direction, or you may want to try this, you may want to get ahead of it. So that's a huge part of publicity as well.
And what was the best advice you have ever been given, when you were coming up and learning about becoming, doing PR work? What was the best advice you was ever given?
The best advice for PR. I think I'm just going to just share the best advice I've had, that's been a guiding post throughout my life, learning how to trust in God, learning how to, communicate, be honest and transparent as much as possible. And that took time, learning how to do that. A lot of times where, you might be a little afraid to say, well, I don't know if I want to tell this person that this might not be a good idea. But if you think about what can happen on the back end, it's like, okay, I don't want to see you fail. So I'm going to give you this advice. It's up to you to choose to take it or not. And I find that even if the person didn't take it, they appreciate the honesty and the transparency. So I think the best thing is to trust God and trust your instincts as you move on.
And Sheila, I'm so proud of you because you have another title. You are now a published author.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yes. Calling Revealed. Yes, the book is called Calling Revealed. So during the pandemic, so first of all, I've always had a desire to write a book. I just wasn't sure which direction. I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. I always imagined, okay, maybe I could talk about PR and how to break into PR. And I always thought it would be career focused. And then the pandemic happened. And there were some things that I was really wrestling with. And I was just like, it's time. So while I was working, all of us are working from home, and I made sure I was doing my work. But in my spare time, I just started writing things down. And I knew that I was, one of the things that resonated with me and with others is, dealing with, finding a purpose and, not being stuck in the same situation. So one of the things I always like to do is, I try to make the Word of God, make the Bible alive and put myself in it. So what I did with Calling Revealed was I basically just related some of the stories from the book, from the Bible, and just kind of gave tips from there. So one of the things I also did was I decided to self-publish. I said, Amazon has this Kindle Direct program and a publishing program. And I basically typed everything up, went through the steps and everything. And, I won't say it was easy breezy, but it was easy enough. And then it was easy enough. And I say that so hopefully it encourages your viewers. And then eventually I published it. And then I was still, there's the shyness. I still kind of like didn't say a word about it.
I remember.
So maybe a year or two later, I was like, oh, by the way, I wrote a book. Now it's hilarious. I'm a publicist, right? So it's my job to promote and everything else, but it's hard when it's you. So I just kind of was like, yeah, here's a book. Okay. And didn't say anything about it until later. And even now it's like, okay, another anniversary is about to hit with the book. So I want to be able to do some things on social and talk about it. But it was cathartic for me. It was helpful. I felt like it was, and one of the things I wanted to do with it was for those people in my circle, whether from work or people I went to high school or college with, or just friends, if they read it, I wanted it to be able to minister to them in their situation. If they were especially if you're at an impasse and you're like, okay, I've been in my career or I've been in this situation for 20 years, or what have you, what should I do? Then I wanted to be able to express that. So that's where it stemmed from.
Right. And now you have to push it even more now because like you said, you wanted to encourage somebody. See, God have us put these things in writing, not for us, for somebody else. So
that's right. That's right.
Got to get that out there, Sheila. Because I remember when you told me you wrote, I said, you didn't tell me. I didn't tell nobody.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, and we're done. Yeah,
but
and it was hard. It was hard to do. Yeah,
you just
absolutely.
never know.
That's
Who's
right.
going through something that needs to, read something in that book and say, you know what, I think I can make it. Because, since I've known you, you always been about just being an encouragement to people, no matter, I would never know you went through anything because you would always encourage me. So but, and I know you're also a life coach, so all of that works hand in hand, so tell me about that. And what made you, become a life coach?
So I think most people, especially in the Christian realm, they know about John Maxwell, the author and leadership guru. And I followed him for many, many years. And in 2019, I was able to attend the John Maxwell. They have a conference twice a year. So I was able to attend, and that's where you get your certification. So once you attend and listen to the courses and everything else, you become a life coach. So I will say I'm still working on building what that is and everything else. But I feel like coaching comes naturally to me. I'm sure you have instances where people are reaching out to you and getting advice and everything else, and I felt like that would help me to cultivate that gift. So that's something I'm building out as well. So with entrepreneurship, it's not, for me, it's not just one thing. It's like how, a variety of businesses and platforms. So I'm slowly building all of those as we speak. So yeah, it's exciting.
Right. Okay. And how's the podcast going?
The podcast, another thing I stayed a little quiet about, but I spoke. So starts and stops. That is something else that was on my heart. As you can tell, I love to talk, and I wanted to be able to have an opportunity to just really share and encourage people. Once again, I wanted to use any platform given. I have to give a shout out to my sister, Roxanne Smalls. When we were at Greater Refuge Temple, back in the day, she and a number of other youth had a radio show. And that was my first taste into watching that in action. And I just loved, I don't want to give away my age, but I come from the time where, a lot of us listen to radio. So radio for your music. I mean, back in the day, it was WWRL for me all day with the gospel. But there was also, that ministry component where it's not just music, but it's also someone who's talking to you, who's ministering to you at the same way. So I wanted to be able to do that through the podcast. So it's called Starts and Stops because many times we want to start something, a venture, a business, whatever it is. And because of for me, it was fear of it's not perfect. This is not, there's so many things it's not right. Then I'll stop. And then I'm wrestling with it. And then it's like, no, it's time to start again.
Right.
So that was my way of trying to encourage people to make sure that, if there's something that's in you that God is birthing in you, then, don't be afraid, just keep moving. And if you listen to the first episode, it's called Just 5 Minutes because my cousin, Sharon had to remind me, like, just take 5 minutes and just do it. And when I did, I was like, oh yeah, let's just take 5 minutes. So yeah, you can't despise small beginnings. So
You really can't. And where
yeah.
could they listen to it? The times, like when can they listen to your podcast?
So you can find it on
Live, Sheila?
SR.
I'm
Say it
sorry.
again.
I'm sorry. I was saying, do you do the podcast live or is like
No, not yet.
okay?
Yes.
That's how
So
it.
yes, I'm more traditional now. Again, I remember I grew up with radio, so I'm more intentional about the voice. But the next phase of the podcast will be using YouTube and using various video streaming platforms. But I definitely want to keep the audio platform alive. So right now you can download it wherever podcasts are. It's on Apple, it's on Google Play, it's on Amazon. It's everywhere. So that anniversary is coming up pretty soon too. So I'll be announcing some more things and more guests, including yourself, in the future. So yeah,
Well,
stay
I'm so
tuned.
proud of you because I mean you going after it, and
Yeah,
you're going after it and you're gonna start pushing it like you're supposed to. I know you
yeah,
are.
yeah. It's time. It's time.
Right. It's time. It's time. But I know you also we talked about Refuge Tempe a few times. You're also the operations director. How long you been doing that?
So that's been for almost 2 years. As I mentioned, when I decided to step out, the opportunity presented itself. So I've been able to do that. I will say that over the years, most people who knew me would know that not only did I work in corporate, but I also volunteered at Refuge in so many different capacities over the years. So I would always laugh and say I have two
Mhm.
jobs, because even if you're volunteering there, it becomes a job. But
Right.
it's definitely kingdom work that we enjoy. So yeah, so that's been going on.
And then there's a blessing that you're, even working at the church because in this life we go through so many things. But how do
Yeah.
you overcome your tests and your trials and tribulations, even this pandemic? How did you overcome
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. Definitely prayer. And when I say prayer, there's prayer, and then there's also being honest and transparent with the Lord.
Hmm.
And during those moments when things are hard, there are times where I've gone through things, and it's like, Lord, I trust you. I
Hmm.
just trust you. And then
Hmm.
there are times where I'm like, I really don't understand what's happening right now,
Uh-huh.
but I'm gonna trust you. But can I
Hmm.
please see the other side of this, or what do I have to get? What's the lesson I need to learn from this?
Right.
So that it's been that. I'll also say it's been helpful to be able to have safe spaces, as I talked about in my podcast,
Uh-huh.
where between my mom, my brother, my family, my
Hmm.
circle of friends, being able to just share and just
Hmm.
vent at times, or just be able to say, we're scared, or we're not sure what things are going to happen next. But being able to talk it out is helpful as well. So I would suggest that.
Right. And now, Sheila, I know you're doing a lot of things. What are you most passionate about? Because you got the brand, you got the life coaching. What is your passion?
I think the recurring theme you'll see throughout everything, whether it's the agency. Oh, and I want to shout out a couple of my clients, Get Right
Okay.
Fragrance. They've been amazing. Jason Crawford and Bruce Hardnett. The Boss Network with Dr. Kamika Smith. Kayla Tucker Adams has been great. I've partnered with her on a variety of projects.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, it's I think if it's in terms of trials and tribulations and things of that nature, you want to just make sure you have that network, that strong network of people around you, and just continue to just be authentic in everything that you do.
Right. And I wanted to ask you, how do you develop a relationship with a new client?
Oh, okay. Well, there are times where I've been introduced to people, and
Mm-hmm.
then there are times where some may have reached out to me. Maybe they saw my website. I will say that thankfully in this season, I really didn't have to like advertise hard.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of people, quite a few people, including the ones I named, were very, very supportive. Who I'd known over the years, and they wanted to work with me as soon as they knew I was, going full time, and so that they were great. I remember Cheryl Wills from New York One was really
Oh, I
supportive
remember.
and wanted me to help her with her
Mhm.
gospel book launch, and Reverend Stories, and just so many people. I always just try to take an assessment if someone's reaching out and to see if it's a good fit. If there are times where it may not be a good fit, but I'll say, well, you know what, I know another publicist who will be great for you. So I'm sure I'm always trying to make sure that it makes sense. I don't want to do things just for the heck of it.
Right.
I want to make sure that there is a connection. Sometimes things don't work out the way, everyone would think, but at least there's something we both can gain from that moment, and then we can move on. So, yeah.
So what time should I call you?
After we finish taping this.
Yeah. Sheila, what mark do you want to make in life?
Not to sound churchy, but I just want to hear him say, well done. Because I know that after you do all these things, and I've been blessed to be able to go a lot of places and see a lot of things, but what resounds with me is only what you do for Christ will last. So I want to make sure that I'm making an impact. If I close my eyes tomorrow, I pray that someone saw his light in me and that it encourages them to do the same. That's the grounding factor for me.
Right. But when people say, I don't want to sound too churchy, that's just our life. We can't help it. Right. We can't help it. We know who brought us this far, and we know who's going to take us to that next level. So we give him the credit for the things he have done in our life. But what are your plans for the future?
Oh, as I continue to grow, I want to see the agency grow. I want to see, the coaching piece grow. I want to make sure that, myself, my family are secure. I want to live life to the fullest. I want to continue to create an impact with the people who are around me. And I love, when I work hard, I work hard. But when I play hard, I play extremely hard. So I want to make sure I'm enjoying all the things that God would have for my life.
Sheila, I just want to thank you so much for being my very special guest on today. And I encourage all my viewers to tune in next week for another episode of the Keiwear Show. You can follow me on all social media platforms and on the internet. My information will be listed in the credits, as well as Sheila, her brand, and how you can contact her. All of that will be listed in the credits as well. And just remember that Keiwear is the key to knowledge. God bless you all, and I love you.
Hi, my name is Al Butler, retired New York City Department of Correction captain and current real estate investor and broker in the city of Las Vegas, Nevada. And you are watching the Keiwear Show. Stay tuned.
Hey there, I'm gospel artist Melvin Crispell III, and you're watching the Keiwear Show.